Today is another Electro 220 video. Today's assignment will be to make the robot sign a famous person's signature. The signature I chose is Abraham Lincoln. So let's get started. We'll start out by giving our project a name. And we'll call it Signature Lab. And like always, I'll put it on my USB stick and select our robot and downgrade the firmware to 6.11.02, and we'll click Create. It'll take just a moment for the robot to load. And when this window pops up, just select the top one. And there's our robot. Next we'll install the pen tool, and to do that we come up here to Import Library, Equipment. We'll scroll down to the bottom to Training Objects, and here's our pen. We'll select that. Now we want to attach the pen to the robot by dragging the pen onto the robot and clicking Yes. Now earlier I created a piece of paper using the Modeling tab, a solid surface, and I placed it on to the station, and then I saved it as a library. So we're going to grab that under User Library, a black piece of paper, and I chose black so I could see the tracing of the signature when I went to do the tracking or the targets. So we'll place the paper onto the station, and we want to create a work object using that paper. And to do that, we're going to come up here to Other and create work object. Now we want to establish the parameters for this work object, and we'll start out by giving it a name, and that'll be paper. And then we want to mark the coordinates, and to do that we'll come up here to the snap tool, and then we'll just click on this box anywhere in the box, and we want to mark the coordinates of the top left portion of the paper. And as you can see, when the dot pops up, just click and it takes those coordinates and fills them in automatically. Now we want to orient the work object to match the orientation of the pen, and those coordinates are for the z-axis 180 degrees and for the x-axis 180 degrees. And click Accept, and then you'll hit Create. And now you can see the orientation of the work object matches the orientation of the pen. And then we want to be sure to turn off the snap. The next thing I did was I went online and picked a signature image in a JPEG, and then I used AutoCAD, or you can use an online converter to convert that to a drawing object. That would be a file ending in a DWG, or RobotStudio also accepts STL files, object files, DXF files. And so I'll grab my signature and load it into the station. Again, that was up here in Geometry, and browse for Geometry. The first thing I want to do is scale it, because it's a little bigger than I wanted. So I'm going to right click on the signature and come down to Modify and select Scale. And I determined earlier that a 0.5 worked out just fine. So we'll select Apply and close that window. Now the next thing we want to do is align the signature onto our paper. So again, we'll right click on the signature and select position and set position. And again, earlier I determined a position that was 400 on the x-axis. Now we want it a little bit above the paper because right now it's actually on the surface. The paper is 2 millimeters thick, so we want to lift it up to 3 millimeters so the signature is above the paper. And we'll click apply, and then we'll close that window. Now the next part's the fun part. We're going to trace this signature, and to do that we're going to start out by setting the target settings down here on the bottom of the screen. We want to move joint. We want our velocity to be 100. We want our zone to be zone 10. We want to make sure our tool is the pen and our work object is the paper. Then we're going to zoom in to the signature, and you can see it's well defined here. And we're going to start out by coming up here to target, and we're going to click on that, and we're going to create a bunch of targets. We'll select our work object as a reference. If this menu isn't open, we want to open this, verify that it's paper, and then we'll click here and to add new target. And we just come over to our starting point and we'll click each point that we want the robot to go to. And basically we just continue outlining the signature one at a time. As you can see, each time we click it adds a point. Now when you come to a straightaway, you actually just scoot on up for as long as it's a straight line, and then we'll come down around this loop again. Here's another straightaway, so we'll come down to here and here. Now one thing I noticed about this signature is that Abraham Lincoln did his A by coming up and down and around. He actually lifted his pen, came over to here, and started his signature again. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an extra target right here at the end, and that will be 0.44, and we want to lift it above. We want to lift the pen above the paper, and we'll do that by adding minus 20 millimeters, and we'll hit modify. That brings the point up, and then we're going to create a point, click on add new, where the signature starts again right here. We're going to modify that to also be above the paper, then we're going to add new, then we're going to go back to the same point, and we're going to continue from there. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark all these points while I pause the video, and I'll be right back. Now if along the way you make a mistake, all you have to do is come up and delete the point. I'm going to back up here just a little, and then just come back and continue with an add new. And as we finish the first name, we'll see it comes to an end where we actually want to stop writing on the paper. So again, we're going to create an extra target, and then we're going to modify it, and we're going to lift it. And your measurement for the z-axis will be a negative number. We'll click modify, and you can see it puts the point up high. And then we're going to come over here to the last name, and where the signature starts again, we'll click a point. Then we're going to modify that and also put that above the paper. And then we'll continue the signature. And again, I'll pause the video. I'll be right back. Alright, so we've traced the entire signature, except we want to dot the I. So we're going to do the same procedure here. We're going to add a target, going to modify it, and we'll lift it above the paper. And we'll come over here to the I. We'll add a target. Lift it above the paper. And then continue. And that should do it. Alright. So once you have your signature all traced out, you simply hit create. And then you can close that window. And this is all the traces. It's kind of hard to read. Those are all the various targets, actually. Now, to make it clear to see, we're going to come here to the left, and you'll see all the targets are under the work object paper. I'm going to highlight the first one, come down to the bottom, hold down the shift key, select the bottom one, and then right click in view, and we're going to turn off visible. So that hides the targets from the station area, from the paper, so we can still see the signature. Now the next step will be to create a path, and to do that we want to verify our settings down here at the bottom. Again, move jog, velocity 100, zone 10. We've got the pen and the work object as a paper. We're going to click the first target, scroll down to the bottom, hold down your shift key, and click the last target. Then we're going to right click, and we're going to add to new path. That takes all your targets. We'll close the targets level, and we'll open up the path, and it puts all your targets in a path. The first step is to rename that path to main, so it puts it in a proper place in the rapid. And then we're just going to scroll through and verify. So there are all the targets. Now we want to start the robot from a home position, which is, fine right there. So we're going to change our work object to work object 0, and with the robot in that position, we're going to teach target. And we'll come over here to work object, and that's the target that we just defined. So we'll rename that to home. Now we want to take that and drag it down to our path, and then that puts it down at the very bottom. And then we're going to drag it again, but we're going to drag it into here, and we're going to reorganize these so home's on the top. Now the speed from home to target, we want to be a little faster. So the first target, we're going to right click, and we're going to modify the speed to be velocity of 1000. And then we're going to come down to the bottom, and we want to modify the bottom home to a speed of 1000. Now we want to verify that the tracing is going to work. So we're going to right click on main and move along path and verify. Now, as you can see, the robot went into an unusual position, and that is common, I find. And the fix for that is to select right click on main path and come down here to auto configuration, and we want to select linear circular move instructions. Just click on that and you can see it fixes the problem. So we'll do that again. We'll run a move along path, and there we go. Lastly, we'll synchronize to the rapid. I'll come up here to rapid, expand these levels, double click on main, and just verify. So here's all our targets, and here's our path. Again, the first procedure is main. We can delete this line. There's all our paths. Now we want to, since we deleted that line, we want to synchronize the rapid back to the station. So click on synchronize, the drop down synchronize, and select synchronize to station. And then we're going to just run a simulation. We'll hit play right here and watch our robot. So you can see here it comes up, it jumps over and comes back down. And there's our project. Lastly, we're going to come over here to Rapid. We're going to save the program as. I'll navigate to the USB drive, and I'll create a folder name. Signature Lincoln, and save. I'll come back to home and I'll click the little floppy disk to save my project. And then let's test it in the flex pendant. So I'll open up the flex pendant. I'll click on load program, and I'll navigate to the USB where I find Signature Lincoln. There's our program file. Click OK. There's our program. I'm going to close out the Rapid and move this out of the way and click on play. And there's our project, Abraham Lincoln.